So, like I said in my last video, with this month being October, I've decided we're going to be doing a month of horror games. This video is going to be about Dead Rising 2, because we're doing a series right now, so obviously I'm not going to skip the next game in the series, because that would be stupid. Now, I've already covered the gameplay of this series in my last video, so I'm just going to do a small rundown of it so you can get the gist of it. You go around killing zombies with various weapons like baseball bats and pistols. You attack with the X button, but eventually your weapons break though, and when they do, you cry yourself to sleep. That's about it. If you know that basic stuff, you're well on your way to becoming a zombie killing machine. This game does have a few things in it that Dead Rising 2 Case Zero didn't, but we'll talk about those when we get there. Dead Rising 2 takes place a few years after the events of Case Zero. The intro cutscene plays and we find out that Chuck has resorted to being on a game show called Terror is Reality to be able to afford Zombrex for his infected daughter Katie. Terror is Reality is a game show hosted by Tyrone King, TK for short. It's about killing as many zombies possible within a period of time. There are actually some pretty fun mini-games here, and there's actually an entire mode dedicated to playing these mini-games online. Sadly, while not discontinued, this game mode has been abandoned on the last-gen version of this game, but there was a remaster released recently, so it might be a bit less empty on those versions. Chuck Greene, who has to buy his daughter Katie Zombrex every day, is eventually forced to compete in the game show, as Zombrex costs thousands of dollars for just a single day's worth. The first section of gameplay you get in this game is a section where you ride a motorcycle with chainsaws strapped onto both sides of it. While still not the best part of this game, it ends up being a very fun experience, and it doesn't matter if you win in this section, or lose miserably, as the gameplay doesn't change at all. There is a slight dialogue change depending on whether you win or lose, but all in all, it doesn't really matter enough to be mad about if you lose. After you finish and get handed your money, you end up going to pick up Katie, when all of a sudden, your elevator crashes like it's suffering from narcolepsy. We find that the zombies from the game show have somehow gotten released into the building, meaning mass panic and multiple bite victims. Now, something weird happens during this cutscene. You end up looking at a person who just got bit. Okay, that happens pretty often, nothing new to see here. But then he turns into a zombie almost instantly. 1 second he's yelling, "Oh no, they got me," and then the next he's trying to take a bite out of your neck. Normally, I wouldn't have a problem with this, but considering the fact that this story is based around trying to get medicine that stops the infection, or rather slows it down, that means that there's no possible way that the bite could turn people that fast. If you're gonna have a story that involves stopping people from turning, at least have a bit of consistency. The gameplay that follows the cutscene is nothing special, although it is a good introduction. It's nothing too exciting in my opinion. After you get through a crowd of zombies, you end up going to Katie's room, only to find a person on the ground getting eaten by a zombie. At first, Chuck thinks this is Katie, so he decides to change his last name to Norris for a second, as he thoroughly manhandles the zombie, throwing him across the room, only to find out that the one getting eaten was one of the people working there. You end up finding Katie, and what follows is easily the most boring mission in the entire game. You carry Katie around and look for a safe house. That may not sound too bad, but keep in mind you can't pick up any weapons during this section, so you're stuck Sparta kicking zombies, which, as you might know, doesn't do much to the undead except piss them off. Luckily, this section does end pretty quickly, as you find a safe house after only 30 to 45 seconds of gameplay. That being said, why wasn't there just a cutscene for this part? There was absolutely no reason to make this part playable, as it doesn't do anything. Normally, I'd just say this was a trick to pad out game time, but like I said, it doesn't even produce a minute of gameplay, so I'm utterly confused as to why it's here. After that section, you end up going into the safe house, only to be stopped by the leader of the safe house.
Safe house.
Who notices Katie's bike. You find out rather quickly who he is, or rather, what type of character he is. He points out that it's only a matter of time before she turns. He says this
right in front of her.
What a douche. You take out a box of Zombrex to prove that you've got it under control, and he lets you go. It turns out, though, that the box you showed him was one that was already used. You only showed it to him so that he would let you in. This leads Chuck to worry about where he's going to get the next dose, as it's almost time for her to get another shot. You meet a girl who looks at the security monitors, and she says there's some in the pharmacy.
Who would have thought?
Leaving you with the task of finding a way out of the safe house. Anyway, I'm gonna quickly wrap up the story here, and then we'll get into some extra side content. I really wanted to do the whole story in depth, but if I did that, the video would be like a billion minutes long. To sum things up, Chuck gets framed for the outbreak, meaning that he's going to be completely decimated by the government when they get there. Others in the safe house let him have a chance to prove it wasn't him, so he goes on missions trying to prove his innocence. He gets betrayed, but ends up wrecking everyone who gets in his way. This leads to him and Katie escaping. The end. That's basically all this game is, trying to find a way to prove you're innocent, and then find Katie's Zombrex. That may not seem like much, but this game, for what it is, has a really large amount of stuff in it. There are casinos, malls, and even outdoor areas for you to explore. This game has so much more than the story, it's honestly amazing. Now, there is another reason as to why I'm skipping the story. Obviously, length is an issue, but even if it wasn't, there's still a huge problem with how cliché this story is. Okay, I like the whole my daughter needs her medicine or else she's going to become sick thing, but that's also like one of the most overused plot points ever. That's the same problem I have with Chuck's story as well. I'm innocent, people don't know that, I've got to find a way to prove it. Now, I like how they mash those two plot points together so that something unique can come out of it, but we end up knowing the ending by the first half hour, maybe. We already know how things are going to turn out. So, instead of talking about the story, I'd like to talk to you about some of the extra things that I really enjoyed in this game. Katie likes playing Mega Man. Even though Microsoft never released a portable console, Katie still has hers in the Xbox version of the game, meaning Katie has a Sony PSP in a game released on the Xbox. And don't try to tell me that it's some off-brand console, because I know that no off-brand console will have Mega Man on it.
So bad, Dad.
You sure are, Dad.
You can give gifts to Katie, and you even get an achievement for giving her all of the gifts available. Although Chuck gets bitten multiple times throughout the game, he doesn't have a need for Zombrex. Although it never happens in a cutscene, only in gameplay, it still breaks the game's story every time it happens. Technically, to get this game's canon ending, you have to win without taking a single hit of damage from a zombie. Although that's not the way the game actually works, it should be the game mechanics. There's a boss in this game that's a tiger. Its name is Snowflake, and you can tame it if you give it 3 pieces of steak.
That's amazing.
You can dress up in some really weird outfits in this game. This game has online co-op, and the last fact is only further amplified by this one, as you can still dress up online. When you play online, the other player is just a copy of Chuck, making the fact that you can dress up so much better. And lastly, this game has some unique items. Very unique items. So, that about does it for this review. Would I recommend this game? Yeah, definitely. This game is so old that you can get it for like $10 now if you play on last gen, and although it's a bit more expensive, the game actually just got re-released on the Xbox One and PS4, meaning you have no reason to not check out this one if you've enjoyed anything you've seen. While the story might be garbage, the gameplay more than makes up for it, so I would highly recommend at least checking this game out. So, the next game I'll be reviewing will be The Walking Dead, both seasons, and after that I'm going to be doing either Outlast or Dead Space, possibly both if I have the time. Until then, I will see you all in the next video. Oh, there's one more thing that I need to tell you all about before I go. I just joined a group of YouTubers called Limited Lives. You should go check them out, as they've really helped me get where I am now. It's kinda like Normal Boots, but we're actually good. I'll see myself out.